Good morning to one and all. It certainly is a pleasure being in the house of the Lord and seeing all that's come out to worship the Lord in spirit and in truth this morning. If you will, go ahead and take your Bible out and turn me to 1 Samuel 17th chapter. My lesson this morning is going to be on David and Goliath. And I think a lot of times we need to know a lot of this history in the Bible, know where we come from, and know the great events of the Bible that's happened. And, you know, the thing is, we're going to take this lesson here from what we read here and the story and apply it to our lives today. How it kind of, it's almost a mirror image of our lives. So I'll give everybody a chance. It takes everybody a second to get to the Old Testament, the 1 Samuel. So I'll give everybody another quick minute. But we all know the stories of David and Goliath. We still use this story as we kind of compare it to other stories today. If you see like a professional sports team who's not a very good team, and yet they would beat another team that was really good. You say it's a David and Goliath story. The little man defeating the big man. The underdog defeating, the overwhelmingly favorite. And that's what this story is about. And we're going to see what God has prepared and what happens in the story and how David was prepared for this battle. So in 1 Samuel, 17th chapter, if we go down to the 4th verse, and there's going to be a lot of reading today, so I hope everybody's following along. And it says, "And there went out a champion out of the camp of the Philistines named Goliath of Gath, whose height was 6 cubits and a span." Now, a cubit roughly is about the measurement from your fingertip to about your elbow, which is about 1.5 feet or so, maybe a little bit more. But roughly, Goliath would be about 9'9" to 11 feet tall, somewhere in that kind of realm. People have different arguments about how tall he really was. We don't need to know exactly how tall he was. We just know this was a large human being. Amen. You would think, if you kind of look around, the ceiling height of this is close to 10 feet tall from us right here. So you're thinking about a man scaling that height right there. Now the thing is too, we know in this battle, the Philistines, were taunting them. They were separated. They were in two different camps, and there was a valley that was separating them. And they were completely taunting him. He was, to go back a little history with Goliath. Goliath is a warrior. He was born and bred to be a warrior. From a very young age, he was trained. He is a professional warrior. He's not just some tall dude that showed up one day. This guy was bred to be a soldier, to be a killer. This was his purpose. We all see how little kids can train to do any kind of sports, or maybe that they're trained at knowledge, already know that somebody has got or really smart as a kid and can really take on knowledge. People prepare them for their future. This is the same way. He was bred to become a killer. In other words, he was going to be a warrior. So here he is, reading the going into the 5th verse. "And he had a helmet of brass upon his head, and he was armed with a coat of mail. And the weight of the coat was 5,000 shekels of brass." This is a chain mail. You always see the people wearing the chain that they can put on top of them, through, almost wearing like a coat. It was this mail here, what it's called. It's going to weigh over 100-something pounds, about 125 pounds if I'm correct. Like I said, I may have some of the figures off just a little bit. Some may disagree, but this is through research what I could find. So what he would wear on top is about 125 pounds. So he's got all this equipment on. He is a large human being. The 6th verse. "And he had greaves of brass upon his leg, and a target of brass between his shoulders. And the staff of his spear was like, And the staff of his spear was like a weaver's beam, and his spearhead weighed 600 shekels of iron, and one bearing a shield went before him." Now his spear, they estimate to be about 10 feet long. The spearhead itself weighed about 25 pounds. So you think about something that's about 10 foot long in your hand, something on the end that weighs about 25 pounds. For the spear to work, you got to have what's a counterweight to help balance it. It's going to weigh about 6 pounds. You pick something up around 35 pounds that's 10 foot long, try throwing it. See how far you can throw it. It takes a large human being to wield something like this. So this ought to tell you the size and strength of Goliath. He wasn't like one of these basketball players that I compare to look like a praying mantis out there. They look like they're about 7 foot tall and, about the size of a bone. This was a large human being. in the eighth verse. And he stood and cried unto the armies of Israel, and said unto them, Why are you come out to set your battle array? Am not I a Philistine, and your servants to Saul? Choose you a man for you, and let him come down to me. Now he's challenged them. He's saying, bring your best guy, come fight me. If you are who you say you are, bring your best man. Well, however, what people didn't know, which is if you go back if you go to the 16th chapter, you see where God sees something different with David. And he has Samuel to anoint him. He is anointed by God. People didn't know this. They see David, which is a small boy, roughly, maybe 17 at the time, somewhere of young age. We're looking at a professional warrior that's about, close to 10 feet tall, however you want to call it. And there's a young kid who's a small young boy who's a shepherd boy. His job was to protect his sheep. He looked over his sheep. He ran off any animals to protect them. He kept an eye on them at all times. That was his job. His job wasn't going around killing people for a living. His job was just to protect sheep. How gentle sheep are. But however, what attacks sheep? Predators, don't they? In our lives, we may be sheep. How many people can attack us? How many people attack other Christians? They come after the weak a lot of times. They take our kindness as weakness, don't they? We always got to think about that way. Well, let's go on into 17th chapter of Samuel. Let's go on up to the 33rd verse. And it says, And Saul said to David, Thou art not able to go against the Philistine to fight with him, for thou art but a youth, and he a man of war from his youth. So here's Saul's the leader here telling him, says, I know, David, you want to do this. I know you, because if you read back in a few verses, David chose to fight. He said, I'll go meet him. And here's Saul saying, you're just a youth. You're not prepared to fight this battle. Basically, this guy's going to kill you. This guy is too big for you. You can't do this. However, Saul didn't know that Samuel had already anointed him. He was anointed by God. He had no idea of this. And David was saying, trust me, I can take this Philistine. And all the other guys were backing down. Wasn't nobody else, jumping forward to face this Philistine giant. So David stepped up and said, I will do it. So here's Saul trying to talk him out of it. But 34th verse, And David said unto Saul, Thy servant kept the father's sheep, and there came a lion and a bear, and took a lamb out of the flock. And I went after him, and smote him, delivered it out of his mouth. And when he arose against me, I caught him by his beard, and smote him, and slew him. Thy servant slew both the lion and the bear. And this uncircumcised Philistine shall be one of them, seeing he hath defied the armies of the living God. Now here's David explaining his situation here. He says, well, I may not be a warrior. However, I had to protect my sheep at all costs. And there was a lion that tried to attack. There's been a bear that's trying to attack them. I took them from their mouth themselves and had to kill them. So he's telling of his experience. No, I've never had to face another man. But however, I've had other battles in my life to prepare me for this. It's not like I just showed up yesterday. I know what I'm doing. Yes. And in the 37th verse, David said, Moreover, the Lord that delivered me out of the paw of the lion and out of the paw of the bear, he will deliver me out of the hand of the Philistine. And Saul said unto David, Go, and the Lord be with thee. Now here he convinces Saul. He says, okay, you convinced me. Now go. You have this much confidence. Basically, he has the most confidence as any man who's stepped up so far. So he's going with him. 38. And Saul armed David with his armor, and he put his helmet of brass upon his head also. He armed him with a coat of mail. So here he is. Saul said, "Here, David, you don't have any armor. You're not a warrior. Here, let me give you my stuff to get you ready in battle." So he's giving him the helmet. He's giving him that chainmail. He's giving him that to put on to look like a warrior. So here, take my equipment to help you out. 39th verse. And David girded his sword upon his armor and essayed to go, for he had not proved it. Now, this right here, what is this? There's a lot of words here we don't really understand. But what he's saying was he was given all this, the weapons. He was given all this coat of armor. He was giving him all these things. However, David's saying, I haven't proved it. I don't know how to use this. I've never had to use this. Matter of fact, it may hinder me from doing my job. Even though it's made to protect my life, it's not mine. I don't know it. I can't prove it. Now, a lot of us, let's go back to what it means by proving. A lot of us have something in our life that we're used to. We don't change it for something better because that's ours. I know that. Let's take a carpenter for example. Somebody may have a hammer. It's their hammer. They love their hammer. They love how it feels, the weight of it, the grip on it.
Yes,
you may come up and say, hey, here's a new hammer. And you may give them 3 or 4 new hammers. They say, it's just not my hammer. It just don't feel right. They may have a stack of brand new hammers right here, but this one hammer that's about 20, 30 years old, they know it.
That's right.
They can prove that.
Yes, sir.
They can use it. We may get other things. It may be a broom, a specific broom that you like. Maybe a specific vacuum cleaner. So yeah, there may be brand new ones, but this is mine. I like this one. I like how it feels.
Yeah.
Put it to you younger ones that are in the crowd. Let me put it to the way you may understand it. Have you ever, let's just say you have a PlayStation at your house. You play on that PlayStation. You know all the controls, the configurations. You can do it in your sleep. Your thumbs just work 100 miles a minute. You go to your friend's house. You're going to play them in a game. Y'all both talking trash to each other. And he has an Xbox. And then you get that controller. It feels different. The configuration's a little different. The buttons do different things. And what do you say? You make excuses when you lose it. Oh, who's back at my house and I have my controller? I'd be whipping you right now.
That's right. That's right.
Because you have proved your controller. You know how to use that. This new thing here is not you. You can't use that. And this is what David's saying is, yeah, this is great. This armor's to protect me, but it's not me. I can't move in it. This sword, I don't know how to use this sword. So he didn't use it. He said, I didn't prove it. There's going to be things that people are going to put in your life are going to try you in. You haven't proved it yet. You may not be ready for it.
Yes.
We got to use what we know. I'm not saying we don't try to learn, but sometimes we fight battle. We got to use what we're proved. I lost my space. Let me give me a second to find where I was at. So let's go to the 39th verse. And David, or let's go to the 40th, excuse me. And he took the staff in his hand and chose him 5 smooth stones out of the brook and put them in a shepherd's bag, which he had even in a scrip, and his sling was in his hand, and he drew near the Philistine. So David is now facing this 10-foot or so giant with a sling. That's all that he has. Now, I'm not talking about a slingshot that you see Bart Simpson or Dennis the Menace with. It wasn't the little Y shape with the little sling. It wasn't that. It was a long sling that they could make, and it says he chose 5 smooth rocks. Smooth rocks. It didn't say he just grabbed any ordinary rocks. No, he knew his weapon. He knew what he needed. It needed to be smooth. He knew which ones could work better. Have you ever, a lot of us when we were kids, we used to skip rocks on the lake. You didn't find a big fat rock to throw across there. It wouldn't do nothing but sink. You'd find those little flat ones that you could rear back and throw sidearm, and it would bounce 5 or 6 times. We knew what rock it took. David knew the same thing for his sling. And it's a sling that you can get going and get to slinging really fast. Those rocks, even today, the guys using the same kind of sling can use these and can throw at something that'll bust a watermelon open. They can actually throw these rocks around 100 miles per hour. In other words, it wasn't just one of these little things that was just going to hit somebody and fall immediately off. This thing was humming. In order to fight off bear and lions, it better be, right? So therefore it says he grabbed 5 stones from the brook that was nearby. Now, somebody brought this to attention, and I heard it, and it very well could be. I have no idea, but it's something to think about. Why did he choose 5 stones? He had confidence that one probably could take him out. Goliath had 4 brothers. Maybe this guy said he chose a stone for each one in case the other attacked. You can look back and see that they were also big.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
So he had 4 brothers, and he took 5 stones, one for each of them if need be.
Yes.
Now, this was this guy's theory, not biblical, but it's a little backstory you got to think about. But he chose these specific rocks in order for his use. In the 41st verse, and the Philistine came on and drew near unto David, and the man that bare the shield went before him. And when the Philistine looked about and saw David, he disdained him, for he was but a youth and ruddy and of a fair countenance. And the Philistine said unto David, Am I a dog that thou comest to me with staves? And the Philistine cursed David by his gods. And the Philistine said to David, Come to me, and I will give thy flesh unto the fowls of the air and the beasts of the field. Now he's taunting him. He's laughing. Can you imagine the camp that says, when they sit there and they tell him, we're ready to fight one-on-one, bring your best warrior. And here's this humongous giant, and then here comes a little bitty youth. Here comes a little kid. That's the best that you got? That right there is the best that you could bring? Out of all the men, all the warriors, you're bringing me a little shepherd boy? That's all that you have. He doesn't have any equipment on him. He doesn't have any kind of defense. He doesn't even have a weapon. He's got a little bag. What's he going to do with that bag? He's taunting him. He says, Come to me. And he said, I'm going to kill your body. I'm going to leave your carcass here. It's going to rot. Animals are going to come eat on your body. The birds are going to come take of it. You're just going to be wasted. You're going to be forgotten about. He is taunting him and letting him have it. So David, you would think you see a humongous giant in your life who's just bearing down on you and taunting you and really using some words on you. Do you back down? Do you get scared? What does David do? Listen, and it says there in 45th verse, Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest to me with a sword and with a spear and with a shield. But I come to thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into my hand, and I will smite thee and take thy head from thee, and I will give to the carcasses of the host of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, and the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. David's not backing down. David's telling him, he said, not only am I coming at you, I have God on my side. I'm going to take your head. The world's going to know that there is a true God and he is with us.
Yes, sir. Yes.
He is proclaiming God right then and there. He didn't back down. He didn't get scared. He didn't look back and say, what do I do? What do I say?